footy season is finally back here. Opening round is this week. Could not be more excited to be bringing you these shows again. Did you miss us? Sure as shit missed doing this. But we've got some awesome matchups to get into for opening round. We're going to look today at Lions and the Cats. That should be an awesome opening round game. Hawks and Swans we'll look at as well. The Suns and the Bombers. And then we'll finish with the Giants and the Pies. Should be awesome. If this is your first time watching the show, this is Prop Nation. So this is between Sully and I. We do NFL. If you watch our NFL component and you want to bet more, this is the footy component. I'll go through all 25 weeks of the regular season and including the footy finals as well come September time. I'm going to give you a couple of models and things that I look at for getting disposals for players, as well as trying to predict anytime goal scorers as well. We had a lot of success last season. It was awesome to see. So hopefully that this will bring you just as much success, bring me as well, just as much success as well. If you could like and subscribe to this, that really helps us out. And we're fired up to get back into this. We took a bit of downtime at the end of last year, had a couple of things going on outside of Prop Nation for Sully and I, but we are going to be back. Sully's going to be doing some hockey. NHL finals is going to be soon, playoffs as well. NFL draft is just around the corner. It's coming up. So we're going to give you an NFL draft show where we go through, pick our top 10 picks. And then also we'll do our off-season previews for the NFL as well. That was awesome content last year. So excited to bring you that again. But for now, footy is back. I'm stoked. Let's get straight into it. There's going to be a bunch of changes. There's going to be a few things that we're going to look at as well this season, which is going to be new. And I'm excited to bring you a couple of theories as well, a couple of game theories for how we're going to bet a couple of these matchups. Let's begin in Brisbane between the Lions and the Cats. It's Thursday Night Football. Very excited this year. AFL is going to be doing Thursday Night Football every single week this year. Last season, you might have noticed that I was kind of going through every single game by game. That took a lot of effort, a lot of energy out. And I was always trying to find picks from every game. This season, I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to focus on predominantly the primetime games. Okay, so it's going to be every Thursday night football game, every Friday night football game, every Saturday twilight game. I think that these are always the primetime games. It's usually the 4:30 slot on a Saturday afternoon is always the best game. And then on Sunday, around 3:30 as well. If the Saturday night football game is going to be interesting, I think the week one this year is between the Pies and Port Adelaide. So that should be a good game. I will preview that as well. So we'll do between 4 and 5 games each episode. But we're not going to do those massive 9-game marathons. It's just, it takes a lot out of the show and kind of makes it drag on as well. So if you do want those picks, though, we're going to have a Discord going, and you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well, and Blue Sky, where I'll have a couple of picks lined up as well. Without further ado, let's get into it. Lions and Cats, Thursday Night Football at the Gabba. Lions are favourite in this spot at minus 14.5 at the moment. That opened minus 16.5. This is the prelim final rematch. We all remember that epic game. I, a Cats fan, definitely remember how gutted I was by the end of it. There's going to be a couple of teams changes, although not much for the Lions, I've got to say. So Sam Day is going to be one of the big ins for the Lions. He's their new young gun who's come up, and so we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. Couple of outs, though, for the Lions. So, obviously, Joe Danaher retired, and low-key, you know what I think of Joe Danaher? I kind of feel like this is an upgrade for the Lions. Lincoln McCarthy is still dealing with his ACL tear. So is Gideon Coleman as well. I think he is also still dealing with his ACL tear. He should be back sooner, though. And you might have seen over the weekend just gone, Brandon Starcevic had a nasty concussion, and it's confirmed he will miss the game against the Cats for opening round as well. So with that in mind, let's take a look at disposals for the Lions. And there's a couple of ways that I want to play this. You'll notice that I'm relying heavily on last year's data to inform opening round this year. And then we'll get into the newer spreadsheets for this year that I've got ready to go as well. But I think that this is a pretty good indication. And the other great thing about these better performing teams is they don't have a huge amount of changes, particularly Lions. It's like, you won the grand final. Why would you change your model? You don't really need to. So perfect way I want to start this. Will Ashcroft is going to be the main guy that I'm going to be looking at. He had a fantastic second half of the season last year. You might have remembered he was completely out. He was still coming off his ACL tear from 2023, and it wasn't until about, I want to say like round 13, round 14 that he came about. You got to remember the Brisbane Lions were a really interesting team last year. They started the season something like 4 wins and 8 losses. And then they went on an absolute heater. They went the entire distance, and they won the grand final, of course. So, with this in mind, Will Ashcroft had a fantastic game for 20 plus disposals. I think he's going to be really, really good value here, and you can pair him nicely. You might want to look at either like Lachie Neale or Dane Zorko. The theory is not too different from last year. Both of these guys are going to do really well. Whoever is going to give you more value for the 25 plus touches that you need, go with that. It's not going to be a huge amount, but I usually lean for that reason with Dane Zorko. The other player that I really want to focus a lot on, you would have noticed last season we talked a lot about Lohmann. He really started to come up at the end of the season. So we were on him very early. For anytime goal scorers, we're going to go with Lohmann again for anytime goal scorer. You would have seen him in the preseason game as well, the practice match. He was very dominant in the first half as well. So super stoked for that. I don't think we're going to get as much insane value as we got last year, but we'll see how that goes. Couple of other forwards. So we know Joe Danaher is not a factor anymore, so this is going to provide more opportunity for a couple of other players. I want to kind of look in the area of between Eric Hipwood and Cam Rayner. Usually I like to lean Cam Rayner because he's got better value. He doesn't always come through with a goal though. He was sometimes playing towards the half back line and the wing through the midfield last season. So I think they do push him forward though because he had a really strong end to the season last year. So Lohmann for anytime goal scorer, Cam Rayner for anytime goal scorer as well. I think this will be a high scoring game as well. I'm dubious about the Geelong defense this year with a couple of changes back there as well. With that in mind, let's get to the Cats right now. We're going to start with the ins and the outs for the Cats. So they brought in Jack Martin on a super sweet deal. He has been playing a little bit in the VFL to start the season though. Do expect him to be elevated at some point. The other one was Bailey Smith. I'm very excited for. I think he's going to be a great addition along the wing. Where, you know, we did see the Cats last year, weirdly. They kept pushing Jeremy Cameron more into the midfield, more along the wing to get more of the ball. So I think that the formula was that Jeremy Cameron up forward is the way to go it. I won't spoil anytime goal scorer. It's going to be Jeremy Cameron for 2 goals. You can also go Tyson Stengle for 1 goal, although I think that there won't be too much value on Tyson Stengle for 1 goal. But those 2 guys, they're all pretty much every single game guaranteed to get a goal. So I like playing it that way. If you wanted a bit more of a long shot for anytime goal scorer for the Cats, we could take a look at the value between Ollie Henry and Shannon Neale. Now, Shannon Neale is going to fit seamlessly into the Tom Hawkins role, it seems to be. He's about the same size as Tom Hawkins. He's more athletic than Tom Hawkins was in his older age, probably even his younger age as well. So very excited to see what Shannon Neale can bring to this. Whoever's going to give you the most value there, Ollie Henry, he can be a bit hit or miss. He'll always have at least 4 shots at goal. Sometimes he'll miss all 4 though. So use extreme caution when talking about that. Couple of outs for the Cats as well. So obviously Hawkins retired, Zach Tui retired. Cam Guthrie has gone back into surgery for his Achilles. So the same injury he had last year, it's come back again. So he's probably going to miss the rest of this season, and dare I say, probably that might end his career as well. The other one, Sean Manor, is dealing with a groin injury. With the Cats here, the spread is 15.5, between 14.5, 15.5. I think the Cats can cover this. If you remember back to the Brisbane Lions opening round game last year against the Blues, they got out to something like a 50 to 60 point lead, and then the Blues came storming home. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of grand final fatigue, what's the grand final hangover going to be like for the Brisbane Lions. I'm interested to see. They are a quality team, though. They've got a lot of young players, so don't expect it to be too different. But I think the Cats should, in theory, if my predictions are right, and they are sort of like a top 4, 5, 6 team by the end of the season, they should be able to keep pace, although it is up in Brisbane. And of course, got to remember, Cats coming off a bye, not too good. But what we'll go with for disposals, so the main ones we want to look at for disposals, watch out for this Tanner Bruin. So I wanted to bet Tanner Bruin. He's probably one of my favorite picks in the middle for 20 plus touches. But watch out. There's a couple of media headlines out there which could impact his season this year. So we'll watch for that. If he is to miss, there's two players that I'm really on this year for the Cats. Jack Bowes, I think, is going to have a fantastic season. He was very good towards the end of last year. And Lawson Humphreys, he had a fantastic... He is one of those great Cats players that just burst onto the scene. In the Indigenous All-Stars game, he finished with the number one most disposals out of anyone who played that game as well. So I'm very interested to see what Lawson Humphreys is going to be able to provide for the Cats this year. You'll probably get some really good value on them as well because it's opening round. We don't expect a lot. If you want something a bit safer, you can go with Patrick Dangerfield for 20 plus touches. Of course, Max Holmes is usually the one you want to go with. I just don't think he's going to have that value that we had at the start of this time last year. I think the jury is out. The verdict is out on Max Holmes. Everyone knows he's a star. So you'll have to bet him up to 25 plus touches, even 30 if you want to get some really decent value. And I don't know that I want to bet him that high at this stage. So bets we're going to go with that we really like: Will Ashcroft, 20 plus touches; Kai Lohmann, anytime goal scorer. I'm going to go with Jeremy Cameron for 2 plus goals as well. That should make a really nice ticket. All right, we'll take a look at the Friday night game in Sydney. It's between the Swans and the Hawks. Swans are 2.5 point favourites at this stage. And if you want to talk about grand final hangover, it's going to be interesting to see how the Swans bounce back from a second consecutive grand final thumping where they had the absolute smackdown laid on them. A couple of outs for the Swans as well, which is going to be interesting to watch. Callum Mills injured himself in the preseason with the plantar fascia. No real ins for the Swans at this stage. They're more or less keeping the same team. Similar to the Lions, they do have a fairly young team, so that's not going to be too bad for them. And there's usually a lot of value to be had in the Sydney Swans. They're a very high disposal getter team, so look out for that. So we're going to take a look at Chad Warner for 20 plus touches is probably our favorite bet at this stage. And Isaac Heeney, if you can still get him for 20 plus touches at around $1.30, that's going to be worth it as well. And watch this guy. This guy's in my next top 4 favorite players to watch this season, Matt Roberts. He was a star last year. At the end of the season, he really came on. He started having some games with something like 34 disposals, 31 against the Crows. He had 15 and 18 against in Adelaide, but then against the Bombers and the Pies, so 25 and 21. He was started to come up with the 25 plus touches towards the end of the season, which you would say it's probably not a lot, but his value was really, really good. He was sitting around $2 at some stages to get 20 plus disposals, and he was getting them easily, and that's what we really love to see. So watch for him. If we want to take a look at anytime goal scorers for the Swans, Joel Amartey. I'm on the Joel Amartey bus this year. I think he's going to have a really, really good season. He did have a game last year where I think he kicked like 9 goals. It was just that one game. And then some games he would just be absolute ghost. You would never hear from him. So I'm into Joel Amartey this year. I think he's going to have some better value. If you want something safer, you want to go with Logan McDonald. He was usually always good for at least 1 goal. Get him early at the start of the season because I think as the season goes on, you're going to lose value on Logan McDonald there. If we take a look at the Hawks, their new recruits, so Josh Battle coming over from the Saints should be a really great addition. They've also bolstered their defense again with Tom Barras from the Eagles, who I think was okay. He had a really good rookie season and second-year season on the Eagles. Then he sort of dropped off in the last couple of years. I think he might be okay, though, on the Hawks. Maybe he'll be reinvigorated. Some of the outs to watch for, they've got a couple of injuries around. I know that Chenkuth Jaff is still dealing with some soft tissue injuries, which is really disappointing to see because he missed a lot of games last year and he was very, very explosive for that Hawks running through the midfield from the half back line. So with that in mind, we'll take a look at disposals. Don't have too much for the Hawks at this stage. I want to say, look, last year, we were all over Massimo D'Ambrosio, and I don't really have a reason to go off it at this stage. He was fairly consistent, and especially at the start of the season, he was really, really insane value. The other one you could look at is Jai Newcomb, but you're going to have to bet him up to 25, potentially even 30 plus touches. Yeah, 30, because, I mean, he finished the season last year, 35 disposals against the Dogs, 35 against the Roos, 33 in round 23, 23 in round 22, so he's a gun. If you want something that might be a bit of a nicer mix, James Worpel. 20 plus touches is the way you want to play that. That should be around $1.30, and that's that 1/3 on the way to get us to double our money that we like to see. Anytime goal scorers for the Hawks, we were all over Jack Ginnivan last year. He was good for at least a goal. We'll see how this one plays out, because I know that Sam Mitchell's had James Sicily playing in the forward line a lot over the end of last year, and mainly the start of preseason and in practice games and in training as well. So it might be that James Sicily's coming forward. Connor Nash, one of their key forwards, and Connor McDonald as well were the best ways to go about it in the second half of the year when the Hawks started to really come to form and started blowing people away. Interesting to see Blake Hardwick. He was one of their key defenders, similar to James Sicily. He moved forward and he really opened up the goal scoring for the Hawks as well, made them a way more dynamic forward line at the end of the year as well. So there's just so many different ways to play it. Of course, you've got Nick Watson as well. Can't forget him. Cal Shadir, one of their young guns, is coming up as well. And of course, Luke Bruce. I think he's going to be injured for a little bit. Jack Gunston is playing on though. Marbio Chol's there as well. Dylan Moore's there. I mean, there's just so many freaking options here for anytime goal scorer for the Hawks. And I can't really pick one at this stage to lock it in. So ticket for this game, the three picks that we really like, we'll go with, I'll go with Joel Amartey for anytime goal scorer, I will. Chad Warner and Isaac Heeney for 20 plus touches, maybe even Matt Roberts. Do I want to watch him for a game first? I might. So maybe if you're feeling frisky, you could add him in as well. For the Hawks, let's go with James Worpel over Massimo D'Ambrosio, and we will pass on anytime goal scorers for the Hawks. The Saturday twilight game, this one's going to be up on the Gold Coast. This one is between the Suns and the Bombers, and the Suns currently are minus 16.5 point favorites. That is crazy, even before the news that the Suns in their most recent practice game, or preseason game rather, they lost 4 key players. They lost Mac Andrew, had a sternum injury. He might be back. Charlie Ballard, ankle injury. He might miss. David Swallow injured his knee. He will miss. And then Lachie Weller, hamstring tightness. Hopefully he can get that sorted out. We'll see how that goes. I love the Bombers in this spot, though, at plus 16.5. I like the Bombers to win this outright. Now, we're not a spreads and lines and totals betting show, but if we were, I'd be all over the Bombers, even just the Bombers money line at this stage, because I think the Bombers are going to really explode into the scene. You'll know in pretty much every year, the last 5 years gone, the Bombers, the first 4 rounds, look like one of the best freaking teams in the entire league. And then, of course, the wheels fall off and the Bombers bomber. But for the most part, these opening round games, it's so good to get value on this. Ins for the Suns, they've acquired John Noble from the Pies. It's a nice little addition. He was pretty good to bet on last year with the Pies. They've also brought in Daniel Rioli, so a bit of a Damien Hardwick link up there, bringing him in. He was one of the Tigers' best players to bet on for 20 plus touches, most consistent last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two players, who are both very good for their respective teams last year, will impact the Suns here. Disposals that we're going to look at for this one, the model has marked down Sam Flanders 20 plus touches, Matt Rowell 20 plus touches. If there's value, there might not be. You might have to bet him up to 25. But I've also made a note that let's watch for Daniel Rioli. I want to see what he does. I think he's going to be one of the key impact players through the midfield and through the half forward line here. He's going to be, I think he could even fill one of those Isaac Heeney type roles where he's just every week getting 20 plus disposals and a goal up to 25. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Anytime goal scorers for the Suns, I'm not too sure. Look, you could bet Ben King. I just don't know that there's going to be a ton of value at this stage. The one that I don't mind is Jack Lukosius, who had never been known for his goal scoring in years gone by. But then last year, something changed, something clicked. And of course, he played the Cats and destroyed the Cats, kicking 4 goals in each of those games. He could be one of their key goal scorers that you can get some value on. So look out for how much value you can get from Jack Lukosius for anytime goal scorer. For the Bombers, they haven't recruited too much this year, but they have lost. Jake Stringer has gone to the Giants, and Dyson Heppel retired. So they lost one of their all-time greats there. But I'm not too fazed by that. The Bombers and the Saints were the two teams that were getting you the most disposals per game last year. So this is great to see because we want to try and maximize who are the players who are going to get these 20 plus touches to 25 plus touches. And with the Bombers particularly, there was a lot of them. There'd usually be between 7 and 8 a game, sometimes even in the double digits, which was cool to see. So disposals that the model really likes this early on. Jai Caldwell for 20 plus touches we like, and Sam Durham as well for 20 plus touches. These are two lesser known players. Well, you would have known them if you were watching Bombers games last year because they were all over the place. They were getting in the 30s for disposals last year. And watch for an up-and-comer. Similar to what I was talking about with Matt Roberts on the Swans, Archie Roberts for the Bombers. He's a little guy. He only played a couple of games at the end of last year, but in his final game against the Swans, he had 25 disposals and he really took that game over. So watch for Archie Roberts as well. And the other Archie Perkins as well, we really like. Anytime goal scorers for the Bombers, you could look at Kyle Langford for 2 goals, especially with Jake Stringer gone. I like that. The other one, I didn't give him enough credit last year, and I want to change that this year. It's Harrison Jones. Anytime goal scorer, he was usually good for a goal, and I didn't believe it. And the model didn't like him because he was so efficient in front of goals. This is the one thing you got to understand about the positive regression model is if you're a player who's hyper efficient in front of goals like Harrison Jones is, you're not going to show up week to week. But I think there could be some value there for that. So that's the way I want to play this. Let's go with Matt Rowell for 20 plus touches if you can get it. Let's go for Jai Caldwell for 20 plus touches if you can get it. And Harrison Jones for anytime goal scorer. All right, let's go to the final game of the round. We're back in Sydney. It's the Giants and the Pies, and it's kind of like the modern day rivalry that's not really a rivalry, but the social media teams like to make it a rivalry. This game between the Giants and the Pies, this is a coin flip at this stage. They can't split them. I personally lean the Giants in this spot, but I think that these are two teams who are going to finish in the top 4 come the end of the season. Between the Giants and the Pies, I think the Pies are going to be really, really good this year. I love the addition for the Pies of Dan Houston. He was one of my favorite players last year to bet on for the Port Power. And this season, I see it being no different. I think that the Pies are going to have a really, really strong defense. Still worry about their ability to score through the offense. They don't really have one of those key forwards. But man, Dacos brothers are going to explode. It's going to be awesome to watch. So Pies did lose John Noble as well. He was he was a better player for us to bet on in terms of fantasy points than he was actually a football player, I feel. He was always around though. So may as well start with the Pies since we're already here. Let's go with disposals. This is my lock of the week. Josh Dacos, 20 plus touches. He came alive in the second half of last year. He's always lived in the shadow of his younger brother, I feel. But something changed in him last year, and he was a gun. He was awesome to bet on. You could get some great value on him, and he became very, very consistent as well. Some games towards the back half of the season, he was getting into the 30-plus disposal mark as well. So for a team that didn't make the 8, I really like what the Pies are building this year, and I think they're going to be back to their 2023 form. Not saying they're going to win the grand final, but I would be interested to see what happens. Anytime goal scorer for the Pies, no one really stands out at this stage. You could go with Jamie Elliott, Bobby Hill, Lachie Schultz, Billy Frampton, Patrick Lipinski. There's a whole bunch of different names there. I'm not really set on any one of them at this stage. I think the safest is Bobby Hill. Lachie Schultz will probably provide you better value though. And in the instance that Patrick Lipinski is playing forward or in the half forward line, he could as well. Wouldn't mind actually betting some sort of like Nick Dacos 25-1, Josh Dacos 20-1 type situations as well. Might be the safe way to play it. One of those guys I feel is going to have a really, really big game. Let's take a look at the Giants. Another team I really, really love this season. Think they're going to make the grand final this year. And I do think that this is the year that they finally go all the way and win the grand final as well. They've got a lot of star players who are coming up who have been good to see. Aaron Cadman, another one of my favorite players to watch this year. He was fairly unknown. I think he's been a bit of a sleeping giant. I think he's going to come up this year as well. Finn Callahan, we bet him almost every single week last year, and more often than not, he would come through for us. So that was awesome to see as well. The other player we really like on the Giants is Josh Kelly as well. We want to look for Brent Daniels for goal scorers. Let me do this. Let me clean this up. I'll do this a little bit more professionally. So Giants ins. Jake Stringer is here out. So they didn't actually lose too much. Couple of players they delisted, including the bloody social media manager. What was his name? Cooper Hamilton. He'll be gone as well. So disposals for the Giants. We're going to take a look at Finn Callahan, 20 plus touches. Can't go wrong with that. Josh Kelly, 20 plus touches. Can't go wrong with that as well. Aaron Cadman, watch him this season. He should be really, really good. Harry Perryman had got here. I think they lost Harry Perryman, did they not? To Port Adelaide, something like that? Or was that Harry Hilmenberg? One of them. Other players we want to look for. So Lachie Whitfield through the half back line should be really good. Connor Iden should step up as well. Stephen Cornelio should be back. Tom Green, of course, is like their most prolific player as well. Toby Green as well. I think the stars everywhere. I actually think even though they have acquired Jake Stringer, I think he plays a couple of games here and there in the first half of the year. And I don't think Jake Stringer plays a game in the second half of the season. So look, I could be wrong about it. Maybe it's the second coming of Jesse Hogan. I just don't see it. I just think there's Jake Stringer was fantastic on the Bombers, or good on the Bombers, because he was a key forward for them. The Giants have so many stars all over the place. I'm interested to see how Jake Stringer in the later half of his career contests with that. So with that in mind, anytime goal scorers, I believe the best value you're going to get here is Brent Daniels for anytime goal scorer. I think he's going to sit around, I want to say like $1.30, $1.40, maybe even $1.50. Whereas if you want to bet Jesse Hogan, you're going to have to bet in between 2 or 3 goals to get any value out of that, which, could do. We'll see how that goes. So that's the way I want to play these. I want to play Josh Dacos, lock of the week, 20 plus touches. I want to go with Finn Callahan, Josh Kelly for 20 plus touches, Brent Daniels for anytime goal scorer as well. That's going to do it. The first episode back for 2025. Super stoked to be bringing you this content again. Opening round is finally here. Footy's back. It's going to be a hell of a season, a hell of a marathon. We're going to be bringing you heaps of great content for the NFL, for hockey, for footy. So stay tuned. Please do like and subscribe. It always helps us out. And also leave a comment below. Want to know what your favorite picks are? Even just generally get your feedback for the show, what you like about it, what you don't like. Is there anything that you want to see? Actually, you know what? Don't tell me what you don't like. I don't actually really care what you don't like. Until then, we're going to be back next week with round 1, where we get into the full slate of various games. We're going to be going through 5 games there. It's going to be starting with the Blues and the Tigers. And it looks like it's going to be a blowout. I actually think that's going to be a closer game than people expect. So stay tuned for that. Check us out on Instagram as well. That's where you can see a lot of content, and on Blue Sky, stay up to date with the conversations we're having as well. Until then, thank you very much. Great to be back. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Don't let the game play you. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. In Australia, phone 1-800-858-858 for free and confidential support. In Canada, learn about safer play at Know the Risks from the Responsible Gambling Council at knowtherisks.ca. In America, must be 21 or older and present. In Arizona, gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. Colorado, gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Connecticut, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Indiana, gambling problem, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Kansas, gambling problem, getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start or call 1-800-GAM-1234. In Michigan, gambling problem, call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help. In New York, for help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Tennessee gambling problem, call Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789. Wyoming gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Prop Nation betting show is for entertainment purposes only and should in no way be considered financial advice.